Welcome everybody to what's new in N2WS Backup and Recovery version 4.1. We're really excited to be here today and showcase some of the things we've been working on for the past few months in terms of additional integrations and capabilities for backing up and protecting workloads on AWS. Really, the stars of the show are Ivan Skudin, who, if you haven't met and you're in Europe, he is a critical part of AWS Europe and has participated in a few webinars with us in the past and is always a tremendous value add. He has extensive knowledge on AWS storage and in general, and is a great resource. We really appreciate Ivan's participation. And from the N2WS side, Laurent Momble is our senior systems engineer. He focuses on supporting customers and prospects with proving out N2WS in their environments and assisting them with getting it installed, configuring it, and everything like that. And if you don't know Laurent, he's somebody that's very much worth knowing. So very thankful to have Laurent as part of the team and to lead this demonstration. So I think the next slide is over to you, Laurent, to kick off with just a brief background on N2W.
Absolutely. Thank you, Ezra, for the introduction. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the show. So you're going to be with Ivan and myself, especially me, the Frenchie of N2WS. I'm going to do a lot of talking here, so I hope you don't mind a little bit of exotic accent, during the show. Now, yeah, Ivan, you're with us. How are you today?
Oh, I'm doing fine, Laurent, and yeah, thanks a lot, Ezra. It's so nice of you to present me like that. Yeah, I'm glad to be here, and yeah, Laurent, you're gonna do most of the talking, definitely. But if there are any AWS related questions, I'm happy to jump in and cover those.
Absolutely, and I will engage you, as we go along, during this presentation, and of course, demonstration of our new features. So before we get started, we'll show you all these new fancy features that we're going to bring you with this new release. I would like to remind our audience about our application. Well, first of all, we are #1 backup NDR for AWS. We've been on the market, since 2013, and we have a lot of experience in the domain of backup recovery and disaster recovery in AWS. And if I could summarize the solution in a few words, well, there are the points here. We provide a unique operational backup NDR built especially for AWS, totally flexible in terms of backup schedules, and you can back up as often as you need and have as many RPO as you need. It's deployed via a self-contained AMI, so you stay in control, the instance run in your own environment, all the metadata related to backup, recovery, etc. All this stays on that instance, nothing comes out from your AWS account. So you stay in control and it's more secure like this. Now you can recover in seconds, in a few clicks, like a particular resource like an EC2 instance or your whole production environment via the recovery scenario. And we also provide VPC backup and recovery, so your resources direct infrastructure can be recovered. It's fantastic for a DR situation. And it is a single pane of glass with a modern, user-friendly interface, including all the necessary alerting, reporting, and third-party integration. So just to say a few words, especially if you're new and you haven't seen the N2WS application and solution before. Ivan, I know you've seen the application, and as you've seen, it's pretty simple to use, isn't it?
Well, absolutely. It's great. It's great. I mean, our partnership is going from strength to strength, and it's really good to see N2W adding fantastic capabilities, and this is a great better together story.
Excellent. Great to hear. So before we get into the nitty-gritty of those new features, I just wanted to remind to our audience 3 crucial steps for optimal AWS protection, especially with N2WS, of course. So the first step is to make sure that your data is safe, which means backing up on regular basis and implementing disaster recovery backups as necessary. Now, there's nothing worse than waking up in the middle of the night and thinking, hey, have we run all the backups today? So obviously this should be all automated, so you get a peace of mind and you can concentrate on other important parts of your business. Okay, that's important. Now, the second step, once you reach this level of security, the second step is about thinking in more details about the recovery strategy. Okay, it's going to be fine. I'm running my backups NDR, but how would I process the recovery if there is a disaster? Okay, so you need to think on the quickest way to recover your resources. For example, using recovery orchestration in N2WS, including the direct infrastructure recovery of your resources, and by this I mean the VPCs. For this, N2WS provides recovery scenarios and VPC capture and cloning, and I'll talk a little bit again later on, about this, these features. Plus, controlling when your resource start and stop, for example, using resource control in AWS, not only helps you having some or creating some maintenance window if you need on your resources, but also saving on your AWS bill if your servers only need to be running, let's say, during business hours. So that's quite nice. And we have a few cost optimization tool in the application. Finally, step 3 is all about cost optimization. Okay, so that's the transition here, and especially data lifecycle management and how you can make use of copying your backup to S3 and archiving them to Glacier. And this in order to reduce long-time retention costs, but also to have an extra level of protection. It's always nice to have another full backup with their increments, somewhere else in another format. Okay, so as object in S3. And in order to reduce, the long-time retention, also, this extra level of protection, we're going to see that you can recover directly, from S3 and Glacier, let's say a full instance, or even do file level recovery or volume recovery. So having some extra recovery options for your archives. Now, this brings me to talking about some of the standout capabilities of N2WS, because obviously 4.1 is not our first release, and we had a lot of release before since we started the application. But just to remind you, we provide granular recovery on instances, on volume, file, and folder level as well. Resource control, which I mentioned, to schedule your servers when they start and stop and reduce your AWS bill at the end of the month. We do an integration with Cost Explorer to give you an idea of the cost of your backups. We have, as you're going to see, a re-engineered UI and a new dashboard with statistics. I mean, recent dashboard, I would say. If you've been using our products, you've seen this dashboard since version 3.0. Again, what is very interesting on cost saving is the capability to do data lifecycle management on your EC2, EBS, and RDS, so you can archive those snapshots into S3, Glacier, Deep Archive, and recover fully from those archives in S3 and Glacier. I was mentioning earlier the recovery scenarios and scheduling. Yes, we provide full orchestration of the recovery, because it's not good enough just to be able to back up and do disaster recovery backups. You need to be able, whenever a disaster happens, click a button, run a scenario that will recover your full environment or part of it in your DR region or DR accounts, and even schedule that if you need to do testing. You could schedule tests of your DR and receive automatically via email the results of those tests, so you can stay compliant. Okay, like this. We also, when I'm talking about DR, I just wanted to mention that we also include full cross-region, cross-account disaster recovery if there is an outage or if your accounts become compromised. And also we provide Amazon S3 replication. So if you want to protect your S3 buckets, you can do that in a very simple and easy manner. Now, speaking about this, just to remind our audience in terms of the resources you can back up with N2WS, and they are as follow: EC2 instances, independent EBS volumes, RDS instances, all-around Redshift clusters, DynamoDB, EFS, FSX, and of course S3 bucket. So you can do a lot in terms of backup and recovery with our product, and especially recover, I would say data or resources where you would have persistent and important data. Okay, that's important. Okay, that said, what is new with 4.1? What do we have on the menu for this particular webinar today? Well, we're going to talk about S3 repository immutable backup. We're going also to talk about a new feature that we have called SAP HANA Backup and Recovery, data lifecycle for RDS engines, and especially we're adding a new engine for archiving your RDS backups, into S3 and Glacier. We have also enhanced VPC capture capabilities. We also support a new resource, FSX, NetApp ONTAP. So as far as I know, we are the only one to provide the full orchestration of backup and recovery for this resource. And also we are going to provide with 4.1 some nice UI enhancement. So let's have a look at all of this in detail. So new in data protection, I was talking earlier about a backup to S3 and Glacier. And when you do that, you can create a repository for that, in one of your S3 buckets. But now we support immutability for those S3 repositories. Another name for this is warm or write once and read many. So it's an exciting feature because obviously when you do archive your backup to S3 and Glacier, now you have an extra level of protection against deleting object by mistake, which is probably the biggest problem in S3, but also the protection against ransomware. So that means that now we support object lock in S3 when you create a repository for your backups, for your archive, and basically you're going to also be able to bring this benefit of immutability for your SAP HANA backups and also for your RDS backup to S3 and Glacier. I don't know, Ivan, if you have anything to say about object lock, but I think
yeah, absolutely. Just a couple of words. So yeah, it's a native Amazon S3 capability, which, as you rightly said, was designed to protect backups from modification or deletion by ransomware, which unfortunately increasingly targets not just primary data sets, but also backup systems and backup repositories. So that feature becomes more and more important as time goes by. Again, hackers and malicious actors are also huge threats. And just a couple of words, the lock itself and its expiration date are managed through S3 APIs, and this is how this integration was implemented. And granularity, you can go down to a single object level.
Yeah, and this is great because then we provide, because of the retention period of your backups, we can remove the lock via the API and then delete your backups as they need to be deleted, even if the objects are locked, and this is all managed, via the application, via N2WS with minimal permissions. Excellent, thanks, Ivan. Now, another important feature that we're bringing, and this is something that a lot of customers have been asking for, is SAP HANA Backup. Okay, and we are very exciting about this feature because it's a very unique way of backing SAP HANA that we're bringing to you. Because by default, the orchestration of SAP HANA backup and recovery is not easy. You have in-memory data, plus you have an instance with multiple volumes. It's a bit of a nightmare, if I can speak like that, to keep up with all this. So this is what we are bringing. We do a combination of in-memory backup and volume snapshots. Okay, so this means that you're going to see you'll be able to recover either the full instance with all the in-memory data, or even recover a particular database to an existing SAP HANA instance, etc. So you have much more granularity, you see, like that. We integrate with the backend, the AWS backend agent. So that's for the in-memory backup, and we do this backup to an S3 repository. Okay, of course, we also back up the full instance with all the volumes at snapshot level. So basically, you can, on top of that, use the S3 repository in another region, for the in-memory database backup. So that means that you have a sort of an extra level of protection and DR, here. And you can also enable, as I mentioned before, immutability on this S3 repository for extra protection for your SAP HANA backups, database backup against what we mentioned, ransomware and obviously deletion by mistake. So it's very interesting combination of those, which gives you a very unique capability in terms of recovery, and only N2WS provide this. I think SAP HANA is pretty big on AWS, isn't it, Ivan? I mean, you have a lot of customers actually running SAP HANA databases on AWS.
Right. So AWS has been working with SAP since 2011, I believe. Mm-hmm. And since then, we've been helping customers deploy and migrate their SAP applications from on-premises to AWS. And nowadays, SAP supports running the vast majority of available SAP applications on AWS.
Excellent. So if you're an SAP user and you're not yet in AWS, or having deployed in AWS, but you are a user of AWS, then it's time to make the move, maybe. Excellent. Thanks for that, Ivan. Okay, so number 3, what we have in number 3 is data lifecycle management enhancement for Amazon RDS. So in the past, we brought the capability to archive your EC2 and volumes, directly to S3 and Glacier via a unique system to transform snapshot into object that we then store in an S3 repository. So basically, your snapshots are like object, and the beauty of this is the capability of recovering a full instance or full volume, or even do file level recovery from your backup archive in your S3 repository. Now, from that, we moved to bringing this capability to RDS, and this is what we had with this is what we brought with our previous release 4.0. So the capability of archiving those RDS backup snapshots, directly to S3. Now, this is something very unique, okay? And we are pioneering this system at N2WS. So we started with one engine, the MySQL engine, backup to S3, and that was with 4.0. And now we're bringing up another engine, which is the Postgres engine. Now we have to do that engine per engine because of the difficult. I mean, I would say the technicals behind that. It's a bit more challenging, I would say, to archive RDS to S3 than it is for EC2 with EBS volumes. So we archive the data to S3, and we also extract the database schemas, so we can then recover not only the data but also the full RDS instance directly from S3. Okay, so now we're doing that for Postgres, but we're also adding that the possibility to not only back up to S3, but also archive to Glacier. Okay, and what is fantastic is that we'll give you the capability to directly recover, as I mentioned, the instance, your RDS instance from your object in S3, but also from Glacier. Okay, so it's fantastic for long-term retention, or if you need an extra level of protection for your RDS. And of course, we're starting with those 2 engines, but we're going to add more engines, as in the future with the future release as we go. Anything you want to add at this level, Ivan?
Well, I think it's just a great example of the value which N2WS adds to RDS protection for customers that have more specific business requirements around long-term data retention. Because as you know, the built-in backup capabilities with RDS, we're talking about from 0 to 35 days, the standard retention. And as we all know, the customers and their business requirements might go well beyond. I mean, retention requirements might go well beyond those 35 days.
Absolutely. So now you can archive, retain your backups for longer and cheaper when it comes to RDS. Excellent. So in number 4, we have enhanced VPC capture capabilities. That's also a very interesting feature. I remember in the past when we started to implement a disaster recovery cross-region, cross-accounts, people were very happy with that. They could recover in one click, let's say an instance or an RDS, into another region or account, and this in one click and a few seconds. However, the difficulty after that is to rebuild the infrastructure. Now, also, you don't want to keep maybe another account or region, with a full sort of a VPC environment, because that has a cost, and also it's not going to be the same because your original VPC will change. You would add security groups, edit your routing table, etc. So we brought a few years ago with version 2.5 the capability to backup, in fact, capture your VPC metadata and clone your VPCs wherever you need them. And now what we're bringing with version 4.1 is the possibility to do that for transit gateway. So that means that you can capture all the metadata of your transit gateway and all the VPCs attached to this transit gateway, and just recover all this in one go in your, for example, DR region or DR account before recovering your resources, so that your resource, when you recover them, can automatically find the same IP address, routing table, subnets, etc., security groups. So this is a fantastic way to orchestrate your recovery, especially in case of a disaster cross-region and accounts. And if you combine that with recovery scenarios, well, you have all the tools to be able to recover, a whole production environment, in a few seconds or minutes. Okay, it's just fantastic. So not only we're adding transit gateway, but we also support more VPCs entities now, especially customer gateways, VPN gateways, site-to-site VPN connection, and also VPC pairing. Okay, what do you think about this, Ivan?
Well, I just thought that I really missed that tool just a couple of days ago at my CloudFormation stack during the deletion. Something went wrong. As a result, I lost a good part of my VPC, and having everything backed up would save me a lot of time.
Absolutely. Okay, and I'll show you how that works, in a few minutes in the demonstration. Another important point is the capability now to, we had already the capability to backup FSX, but now we're bringing also the possibility to backup a NetApp ONTAP FSX. Can you tell us a bit more about FSX, Ivan?
Yeah, sure. So this particular member of FSX family was introduced in September 2021, so fairly recently. So it's a AWS branded service, but at the same time, it's a fully featured NetApp ONTAP storage system. So, the concept of running a third-party storage solution in AWS is nothing new, and there has been a NetApp native solution for many years. But what can customers get is within 25-30 minutes, they can get a new fully functional storage system running in AWS. It's a combo of file and block storage in the same offering, and it offers multi-protocol capabilities. Instantaneous snapshots, clones can be deployed across multiple AZs, and provides remote replication, for example, for hybrid environments where existing ONTAP customers now can easily burst or DR their storage right into AWS cloud.
Excellent. And now with N2WS, we provide a full orchestration of the backup and recovery and all this, via a single pane of glass across multiple region and accounts, so which is fantastic. And I'm going to show you that in a few minutes. Excellent. And finally, the last feature I wanted to mention, it's a little bit, well, what some people would say is a bit cosmetic. It's just we've improved the user experience. We enhance, in fact, our interface here. So we have an improved UI so that you can work faster and more efficiently within the N2WS solution. We've also enforced password rules, you know, so accessing the UI is a bit more secure. So now you have, for example, collapsible menus. We have persistent column size, context menu when you right click on a particular, I would say, object like a backup policy or a backup session, etc. So it's much more efficient, I would say, to work into the user interface. Excellent. So since we've been speaking about all these features for the last half an hour, let's have a look at them in a quick demo. So I'm just going to bring my environment here. So just bear with me. Okay, you should be able to see that. Actually, Ivan, can you see that?
Yes.
Perfect. So let's go a little bit in the order of the presentation of those features. We started to talk about immutable backup and the fact that now we support object lock, you know, for your S3 repository when you want to archive your backup to S3 and Glacier. So just to remind you, when you create a bucket here, whatever name you want to give, so I'm just going to put some rubbish here to start. You probably have noticed that you can enable a bucket versioning, and if you go into the advanced settings, you'll be able to enable object lock. Okay, so that's what we support, in fact, just to show you how it looks like when you build a bucket. So you can now create, for example, or use a bucket with object lock enabled, and you can go into our application interface. We have a storage repository here, so I can easily click S3 repository, and now I can create an S3 repo and making use of my immutable backup. You know, so for example, that's my one of my accounts, AWS accounts, and when you create AWS accounts in our application, you can give the name you want. So, and that's one of my buckets. I've created especially a bucket that I know as object locked enabled, and now I can just make sure that the system will create immutable backups and support object lock by just ticking this box. You know, it's pretty simple. So this means that when you create a backup policy, for example, let's say I'm going to create an AWS backup policy here, whatever the backup policy name will be, select a schedule, add, for example, a target such as an EC2 instance, for example, let's say this Amazon Linux there. Then in the lifecycle management, when you enable a backup to S3, okay, you can set, for example, how many snapshots you want to keep. For example, 7, if I backup every day, 7 days. Then I could archive to S3, every week like that, and why not to Glacier. In my storage settings, I'll be able to select a particular repository with immutability enabled, like this one, for example. Okay, pretty simple. So that's the only thing that changes really. You can now select the immutable repository you would have created, and that means that you're going to back up and archive in that particular repository in S3 and Glacier, and those objects will be locked. And of course, the system follows a retention period. So when comes the end of the retention period, we can remove via the API the lock and delete the backup that is not needed anymore. Very simple. So that's for the first point. The second point we mentioned in the presentation is SAP HANA Backup. And I was telling you that it's a pretty unique system that we have in place, because we back up not only I would say the in-memory data, but we also back up the full instance with snapshots, and we do a combination of both, so we can bring you the best of both worlds and bring you, in fact, total capability in terms of recovery. Now, how does that work when it comes to building policies with SAP HANA instances? Well, nothing changes really. It's just a matter of backing up I would say SAP HANA instance, an instance. In fact, what I'm going to do is just show you my SAP HANA instance. If I can go back to my EC2s here, since I've got one running at the moment, and I've got that in the North Virginia region. So basically, you may have SAP HANA instance like I have here. You see, this one is stopped, but that's fine for my example. And then I want to back it up. So what I would do is just create a new policy. I can call it even SAP HANA, for example, select the schedule for my backups. And then when I go to my backup target here, I'm just going to add this instance like I would add any other instances. You see, I can go into North Virginia region. I can select the instance, add it. Now, the difference is that you would have to configure the backup for that particular instance. And we added a reminder here, click here for SAP HANA instance backup, configuration. So I'm just going to click this configure, and I'm going to enable SAP HANA Backup. And then I need to fill up, those parameters here, those fields, Now, if you're an admin of SAP HANA, you will know what to do in there, especially in terms of the different databases on your instance. So the first one will be the system database, and you would have to enter basically your passwords, your admin system DB password. And that's enough for backing up all the databases running on SAP HANA. And then you have your SAP HANA SID. Again, you should know where to find those information, but if you don't, be in touch, we'll be able to help you. So very often it will be HDB or HXC, and very often it will be also instance number 2. And then I would select my repository. So again, I've got a few repositories that I've created in the N2WS repository section, and I can even use my Immutable repo here and put a KMS key ARN as well to encrypt those backups in the S3 repository. So once you're done here, you just click on apply, and that's it. The system will start backing up your SAP HANA. Pretty simple. Now, when it comes to recovery, if we go into the backup monitor here, I have actually some SAP backup that have been running. So, for example, there's a few. Oh yeah, just one thing: if your SAP HANA is not actually running, the backup may appear as a partial, and we will only backup, in this case, the full instance and the volumes. But ideally, it is running, and we can backup everything, even in a memory database. So that's my my backup policy. That's my restore point in time here. I'm going to select that instance. I'm only backing up one SAP HANA instance there. So this is where it gets very interesting, because you see, I can either recover the full instance with the in-memory data. If I click recover here, I even have, the typical option that you get, for recovering your EC2 instance. And as you can see, there, all this can be changed. I mean, we keep track of all the metadata. You can select the volume you want to include and exclude. You can even select which database you want to include and exclude. Obviously, all of them, or by default, or some of them. And you have also some advanced option. Okay, there. So that's how you could do a full recovery. But what is very interesting as well is that you can recover the internal DBs only if you wanted to. You see here, if you have an issue, or database is corrupted, or some records have been deleted. You can do a volume only recovery as well if one volume has been corrupted. And as you can see, I've got a lot of volume, on my SAP HANA. That's typical SAP HANA deployment. And you can even do file level recovery if you wanted to, across even multiple backup sessions. You see, so it's very exciting because you get a combination of all these recovery options, and that's because we do in the same time in-memory backup and also the full instance backup with all the volume being snapshot. So that's for SAP HANA unique backup capability and recovery orchestration. The next feature that we had was on our presentation, number 3, was the capability to archive RDS backup to S3 and Glacier, and also a new engine we added, which is Postgres. So how does that work? Well, when you create a policy for your RDS, and actually probably will be quicker if I use my RDS SQL backup policy here. So you're going to see in my backup targets, I've got a MySQL database engine and also a Postgres. Well, basically those two engines now, we support them in the life cycle management. Okay, that means that I can not only back up according to snapshot with RDS snapshot, but I can also archive to S3 for extra level of protection or long-term retention. Okay, as I'm doing here, I'm backing up for a week, and then every week I'm sending a backup for my RDS, MySQL, and Postgres to S3, and also I archive them to Glacier. Keep them only 1 month in S3, for example, here, and then archive them directly, you know, to Glacier for 12 months. And of course, I've enabled RDS because these settings are also for EBS, you know, as you can see, so your EC2 backups or volume backups. So there's a bit more configuration to be done here. I need to enable RDS copy. I would have to create an export role because what we do is an export of the data, a bit like a database dump in Parquet format to S3, and then we also extract the database schema. So for this, you need to create an export role, but we're giving you the JSON to create this role, you know, with the policies. And also you need to use a custom KMS key for encrypting in S3. Okay, so once that is set up, what's going to happen in your backup monitor, if I select my RDS SQL backup here, you see I've got my traditional backup running. They are successful here, and you can see that some of them get stored once a week, you know, in S3. Okay, so this means that I can then now not only recover my RDS, you know, using my RDS snapshot, but also from my S3 repository. If I click recover here, I could select my MySQL database, select my S3 repository. Obviously, if we were in Glacier, I would have also the option for Glacier, but click recover here. And oops, I think that's just the region I selected, but that's fine. Don't worry about it. And then I would have all the basic option to recover my my RDS database. Now, one thing you would see is this worker configuration here, because we need extra processing power for archiving to S3, but also for recovering, you know, from the object in S3 or Glacier. So we always launch, you know, for a few minutes a worker instance that will do this processing work. Okay, there.
Hey, Laurent, can I interrupt with a quick
Yep.
question from the audience?
Yes, of course.
So since you're covering RDS recovery, Anatoly is asking, he deployed an RDS cluster with Aurora Postgres engine, and inside the cluster are many DBs. Is it possible to back up and recover a single DB separately from the other databases?
At the moment, this is not possible. We back up actually at the full RDS instance level. Okay, and but this is something we're working on. We want to provide our customers the possibility to recover a particular DB. So hopefully we'll have that with the next release, but I cannot guarantee that. Okay, so keep an eye on the future release. Now, what I've shown in terms of archiving to S3 and Glacier at the moment is only for RDS, direct MySQL and Postgres engine, not yet for Aurora. At the moment, Aurora doesn't have a capability in AWS to do an export to S3, and Ivan can confirm that. But once it will be there, we will support it. Okay.
That's great. Ivan, just curious, is there a way to do that natively in AWS at this point?
Not on Aurora.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
Not for Aurora. Okay.
Not
right.
yet.
So
I would say.
that's definitely something that we'll chase, and we'll add to a future release, and we'll update you when it's available.
Excellent. Our next feature is VPC enhancement, so VPC backup and recovery. So as I mentioned before, a while ago, we implemented VPC backup, in fact, VPC capture and cloning to support disaster recovery cross-region, cross-account, okay? So we've enhanced that, and now we support transit gateway. But for you in the back end, if you're already users of N2WS and you upgrade to 4.1, nothing really changes. In the general settings, you see in the server settings, general settings, we have this capture VPC section, which we had since version 2.5. And by default, capture environment should be ticked, but if it's not, you just tick the box. And you can even select the capture interval because, of course, your VPC will be changing. So you want to be able to capture those changes. So you can do that every 24 hours down to every hour. Now, what is new is that we'll now capture transit gateways and all the VPCs attached to it. Okay. You can even run capture manually if you want. You can see the previous capture. You can even see a log of your captures. Even mention, searching for transit gateway, which is pretty new. Searching for transit gateway changes. Okay, in different regions of your account. So each account has this capability where every time you add an account to capture VPCs and transit gateway. And what changes really is more for the recovery. When I go to my account section here, and let's take a scenario. Let's say that I need to recover to my DR region. My environment, my main production environment is in London. I need to recover to Ireland. So do a DR in Ireland. So what I would do first is go into my production account, for example, this one. I use the London region and click clone VPC entity. Okay, and I would select obviously my London region, and that's my production VPC here. Okay, so I can choose to recover even a particular VPC or a transit gateway with all the VPCs attached. Okay, so that's the difference. Before you could only choose a particular VPC. Okay, and what is fantastic is you can clone, for example, the transit gateway or the VPC here. You can even do that in another account. So it's great if even somebody made a mistake and terminate, the transit gateway or a VPC, etc. And this is used in collaboration with recovery scenarios. For example, if I go to my recovery scenarios and I've got a recovery scenario here, to recover to Ireland, once I've cloned my transit gateway with all the VPCs or a particular VPC, I can just run this scenario and the system will automatically find the VPCs and recover my resources in those particular VPCs. So my resources will find the same IP address, security groups, etc. So with this system, you can totally orchestrate the recovery and especially the disaster recovery to another region and account with not only the resources, but also the direct infrastructure for your resources, meaning the VPCs and transit gateways. Right, so the next feature was FSX, Net ONTAP. Again, here, to back that up, this is not very complicated. You just create, for example, a new backup policy. Call it FSX ONTAP, for example. Why not? If you wanted to. Sorry, FSX. Cannot write that properly. There you go. And in fact, what's going to happen is in the backup target here, you have actually a section FSX. And then if you do that, you see now my FSX ONTAP will appear. Before that, obviously you wouldn't. Okay, this is pretty simple. And you can just add it to the policy. Now, what is a bit more interesting, on the other hand, is on the backup monitor in terms of recovery, because the way we backup FSX ONTAP is that we backup, in fact, only the volumes, but we can recover the full FSX because FSX comes with a root volume for the operating system, and then after that, you have your data volumes, where your files will be. Okay. And all this is mounted on a storage virtual machine. So when you select recovery for your backup on the backup session for FSX ONTAP, you're going to see that when you select your FSX ONTAP, you have the possibility to do a full FSX ONTAP recovery. Or if you wanted to, you could just do the volume recovery. So I can go into the full recovery. I can even there select which volume. I only have one volume here and some extra options as well, such as system administrative password. Or I could just do a volume recovery directly, to my storage virtual machine if I wanted to. Okay, so I don't have to recover the full FSX, so the full file system. Okay, and finally, just to finish, before we go back to the presentation, we still have a few slides to present. I was mentioning some UI enhancement. Well, there's a few interesting points in the UI that you should be aware of. Let's go back to just bringing all my policies. So I'm in the backup monitor. So you see here now you can, if necessary, collapse your menu, we realize that we have some people using our application directly from a tablet with a smaller screen. So we wanted to give them a bit more space. So now you can collapse the main menu and still have your icons here. You can even collapse the top menu here. Everything you see here, okay, you can collapse it. It's pretty simple. And then you have your main menu here. If you click the menu button, once it's collapsed, okay, or you can funnel as well, like your policies, filter your policies directly from here, and you can bring the menu again. You can also select which columns you want to see, number of records. So it's quite nice. And you're going to have that in in all the views, basically. If I go to my policies as well, I'm going to see that, I'll be able to collapse, as you can see, access the menu, see my funnel. If I've got anything that I filtered, okay, it will appear there. So it's quite nice and easier to use. And on top of that, we also now have contextual menu. If I right click a policy, I can edit it, delete it, run SAP. So you don't have to just select and go into the menu here. And you have also a one-click edit. So if I want to edit a policy, I can just click on it before you have to select it and edit. That's it. Last point before we go back to the presentation is also I need to remember where that is. It's in terms of user password. We do offer now a passwords enforcement. So that should be in the security settings here. Yeah. So you can enforce password rule. We give you a bit of an information of the length, it can be numeric, etc. You can also enable user password expiration. Okay, and you can set a time there. Nice and easy. Great. So that's just a quick demo on about the feature we talked about. So let's go back to the presentation and to the slide here. So just in a few words, I wanted to talk about our customers. I mean, we have N2WS builders worldwide. We have different type of customers around the globe from different industries. Some are just end user using the application. Some are managed service providers. So basically, we can adapt to any business model. Nice and easy. Next step. I don't know, Ezra, if you want to take over from here, but if not, I can carry on at this point.
Sure, carry on. I think you're doing amazing.
Okay, that's great. So just what is the next step then? Now we've shown you all these very exciting new features. So if you are new users, you can at any time start a 30-day trial. And then at the end, it converts into a free edition with limited features. But basically, you can try all this fantastic feature and obviously the world solution. Now, if you are an existing free edition customer, you can upgrade, in this case, to 4.1 standard edition and take advantage of the new FSx NetApp ONTAP Backup, for example. Obviously, if you're an existing standard edition customers, there's always possibility to upgrade to 4.1, and you can go to advanced or enterprise edition if you want to benefit of archiving to S3 and Glacier, especially for RDS, SAP HANA Backup, S3 object log, so immutable backup. So some features obviously are part of advanced and enterprise. Okay. And obviously existing enterprise and above, you just need to upgrade your system to 4.1, and that's it, nothing else to be done. So how to get started? Obviously, it's all about the AWS Marketplace. We are a top-rated application on the Marketplace. You can search for us there, and you can get started directly from the Marketplace on your subscription. When you activate a free trial for N2WS, you have you're going to get a 100%. $100. Sorry, I'm getting a little bit confused there. $100 AWS credits, so for your AWS account, so which is quite nice. So get started anytime. This is the URL there. Get to n.n2ws.com/free trial promo. Excellent. Now, we're going to be traveling, indeed. There's going to be several summits, and it's really nice to see that in-person summits are back in action. We'll be in Paris on the 12th of April, London on the 27th, Berlin on the 11th of May. We have also New York City, July the 12th, San Francisco, April the 20th. Atlanta on the 18th of May, Washington, D.C. on the 23rd of May, and Anaheim, August 17th of August, and Chicago on the 24th of August. So come and see us. We'll have a booth. It would be nice to meet you, and also, see the application live there with us.
That was
That's
awesome,
it for today.
Laurent. Yeah, there's a couple of questions here.
Okay,
that
great.
I'd like to help the audience pose. Some came through in chat as well. But can you talk a little bit about SAP Backup and whether we're a certified SAP solution or not?
So that's a very good question. We not yet certified ASAP, but obviously the system is, we're using AWS is, the backend agent is. Okay, so basically we know the system has been built for SAP HANA and for SAP HANA admin. It's going to be pretty transparent, the way to set up, for example, there. But obviously we would like to be certified, so we do a bit of research internally, and we have some contact, with SAP. So in the future, probably will be certified. Yeah.
And another one is, can you talk about our support for FSX in general? Is NetApp is ONTAP the only FSX we support, or?
No, we support all the other ones, apart from another one, which is OpenZFS, I think, on top of my head.
Yeah, this is the right one.
Yeah, that's the one. We still have one missing. Yeah, but we support all the other ones, Lustre, Windows. For the OpenZFS, this is something that we probably going to have when version 4.2 will come. Okay, it's on the roadmap basically, so we can expect that hopefully by Q3 this year, end of Q3.
So there's also like quite a connection between FSX and Transit Gateway. Can you and Ivan talk about that a little, like and how N2W supports high availability and quick recovery by supporting both FSX and Transit Gateway?
Yeah, so what is very interesting is that now you can do a combination of both, when recovering. Okay, so as we've seen, it's pretty simple to recover FSX ONTAP, and I'll show you as well, in the UI, how you can recover a full transit gateway. So you can do a combination of both, and you could also add that, for example, to a recovery scenarios, especially if you have several FSX and not only ONTAP, for example, and then recover your file system once you've recovered, a transit gateway. So you would want to recover your transit gateway first, and then the FSX, the file system that depends on it. Okay, it's very simple.
So, the call out there, I would add, is that, transit gateways necessary for FSX to function properly, right? It's the way VPCs are mapped to a local network. So obviously critical. And I think it's important because this is an area where N2W is thinking about the greater infrastructure that you're protecting and not just the file system itself.
Yes, you're correct. Yeah.
Yeah, and just let me clarify. So where transit gateway is required, where a customer has NFS or SMB clients sitting outside of the VPC where FSXN itself is deployed. So for those kind of environments, the transit gateway support in N2W makes perfect sense, and this is where it's a key advantage and the benefit as well.
Awesome. That's good clarification.
Yeah, thanks, Ivan.
We'll still take a couple of questions if anybody else has them. And we want to thank you all for joining us this morning and participating. And just a couple of call outs I want to add. Laurent mentioned $100 infrastructure credit if you start a trial of N2WS. We also want to support our customers in adopting version 4.1. So if you're a customer and you're on this call, we'd love to help you move to 4.1, and we have similar infrastructure credits to justify you spending the time on making this upgrade. and also Uber Eats gift cards. So Backup and Burritos is not just for new customers, and neither are infrastructure credits. This is something that we really have a greater focus on our existing customer base. So I know there's a couple of folks from the N2WS sales and customer success team on the line. These are Rory, Jay, Ali, and a few others, and they're going to reach out to you after the webinar. They're going to have the details on the infrastructure credits and the Uber Eats gift cards. So make sure you chat with them, schedule some time to run an upgrade to 4.1. And as a company, we're as an AWS partner, we're also customer obsessed, and we really want to make sure that all of our customers are successful with version 4.1 and gather as much feedback as possible. We're really grateful for your support and participation. And one last mention is, if you're in any of these cities that are on the screen now and you come to an AWS Summit, come visit the booth. Laurent and I will be there along with others from the team. And we go to summits in a kind of different fashion. We try to be a little bit of a distraction from whatever else is going on, and we look to give away a lot of good prizes and engage with our customers and prospects, and in a more fun style. We understand that you might be sitting in sessions all day and might need a break. And one of the things we look to focus on also is to give away prizes that everybody wants, but nobody wants to buy. So a good example is we'll give away like Lego bonsai trees, because that's something that I think most people like, and nobody wants to spend money on. So well, some people do, but definitely come see us at a summit. We're going to be at all these events. You'll see us prominently on the show floor, and just stop by the booth and say hello and meet the team. And we're looking forward to meeting all of you in person this year, once again. So we're really excited about that.
Absolutely.
Any closing thoughts from you or Ivan, Laurent?
No, I mean, it's just another very fantastic release that we've been waiting for a while, but it's there now with amazing, unique features. And I think this is what we are. We're always ahead, thinking about how we can do things better when it comes to backup and disaster recovery. And we build our application a lot on our customers' feedback. So please use it and give us some feedback on these new features. That will be fantastic. We want to hear from you.
Awesome.
Yeah, and thanks a lot, Ezra and Laurent, for having me today. It's great. It's great to see N2W being customer obsessed and just keep adding new features and supporting more and more functionality.
Awesome, and thank you, Ivan. It's tremendous to have your support, and we're very grateful.
It was a pleasure.
And with that, we'll close the webinar right here on time. There is going to be some slides and a recording sent out. A lot of people requested just the slides. And just thank you again for joining us today. Hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and you'll be hearing from us shortly.